Hello and welcome into another episode of the Screaming Eagle, a father-son podcast. I'm Nick Kloss alongside my father, Eric Kloss, and back for another off-season podcast for the Washington Capitals. We'll talk a little bit of the Stanley Cup, just a little bit at the end before we wrap things up with a promotion of an interview we're going to be doing in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Breakdown day happened. So we wrapped up the season, got kind of the last comments from all the players and everything. We'll talk Hershey. They just started the playoff push with some players that will most likely and definitely be on the NHL roster next year. And then, like I said, we'll get to the other stuff at the end. But, Dad, so we'll just jump right into it. We have to do a quick one here today. But what was your takeaways from Breakdown Day? The main things we really learned were Pierre-Luc Dubois was kind of double injured. So that was we already talked about how big of an impact that was, but he also had the second injury, and then Rasmus Sandin, his injury, worse than we hoped for. It's about a 6 to 9 month recovery from ACL surgery. So kind of let's start with those two and kind of the impacts, if any, that has going forward.
Well, just a couple observations about Breakdown Day. I mean, it was clear to me that based on comments from multiple players that, they were quite disappointed that they didn't make the playoffs. And obviously they knew that they had control of that outcome. And so I think they were obviously disappointed that they weren't able to step up in the games they needed to step up in. But having said that, I think, obviously we learned those two things. I think we also kind of learned that there was a lot of enthusiasm about the young movement coming up. So that was good to hear from, the various players that were interviewed. But I think the Sandin announcement, and now he subsequently has had his knee surgery, was the biggest kind of change in kind of how the offseason might progress, because now it requires potentially them looking at a right defenseman. Um, and I actually read something yesterday that it still seems like there's some buzz about John Carlson coming back potentially to the Capitals, which I don't know if that's realistic or not. But I mean, definitely, I think the fact that he is injured, and it sounds to me like it's likely he won't come back till potentially even as late as January, right after the Christmas break.
Mhm.
9 months is the longest
That's the long
time
end of
frame.
that. Yeah.
6 months is the earliest. So, you have to presume we're starting with another defenseman. And quite frankly, I don't think the left and left really works with anyone but
No, we
Sandin
need to stop.
and
We need to stop
Faravari.
manufacturing. We need to stop manufacturing that in general. But yes, and anyone outside of Sandine probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right. So you really do have a need for I would say first line defenseman. I don't think is Roy as a first line defenseman, and I don't think you've got TVR and Liljegren. And so the real question ultimately is going to be, how do you handle both of those? They just already indicated that they'd like to re-sign Liljegren. I don't know that where that puts TVR. Is TVR TVR is not a number one defenseman. I don't think Roy's a number one defenseman, and I don't think Liljegren is a number one defenseman. So I feel as if that now is a new need, right defenseman,
Hmm.
right? And so I think that there's the one thing I think too is Chris Patrick, right? Chris Patrick said, the wallet's full. I mean, they've got,
Hmm.
33 million worth of cap space available. They've got a couple people they got to sign. But hey, there's more than enough room for Ovi, for top first, second line winger and a right defenseman. So I think that's what we're going to be looking to see how he maneuvers that. He'll learn first about Ovi, hopefully before the draft. And I think given that we have all the draft assets that we have, I would expect a trade to occur around that time, because I think that's when we'll have leverage with our draft assets.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And looking here at Puckpedia and just the roster, if the only rights we have are Van Riemsdyk, Liljegren, and Matt Roy. So
Right.
Van Riemsdyk kind of fits into that last pair. And then the funny thing is, ideally, yeah, you have honestly John Carlson, not saying he comes back, but saying you didn't move him. That's your first pair. You
Right.
have him and Chicky, unless you want to
Mhm.
kind of distribute the talent or put him with Martin like he was. And yeah, that's kind of a dream scenario. The truth is I think Anaheim is in a young, fun place too.
Oh
And
yeah.
maybe he kind of is like, all right, well, they moved on from me. Maybe that's time for me to
Mhm.
move on. And so you just
Right.
don't know where his head's at. Obviously, I'm pretty sure his kids are still back in DC, like his family, that
Right.
finishing out school year, stuff like that. Like he
Sure.
definitely has roots in DC. So
Hmm.
it's not impractical to think that, but it's just unlikely, and I would say I don't think it's going to happen. But I do have kind of a list here of defensive UFAs. Um, and it just depends. Are you trying with how much? The thing is, you're trying to go after a big name top player to play on your first line and really kind of push this team to a next
Hmm.
level. So if you're
Hmm.
doing that, we have a lot of cap space, even if Ovi comes back, but we don't have unlimited cap space.
Sure.
So the question is, I'll say to you before I kind of talk some names is, do you think we're like Jacob Trouba, his previous AAV was 8 million. Like that's not a guy we're going after. Like what do you think
No.
the salary level is of a right defenseman we could go for in the offseason? Because I'm looking at like Simon Nemec, I think it's Nemec.
Mhm.
He's 4.2 in New Jersey, 22 years old. He's a free agent, and that's very kind of Washington. I feel like the way they do it because
Hmm.
it doesn't show him if he's right or left. I think he's a righty. It doesn't show him as right or
I'll
left, but I'm almost certain he's a right defenseman.
Yeah,
Um,
so you're looking for again, going back to what Patrick has done in the past. He's looking for someone who's somewhere between 26 and 29, and I would say probably 3 to 5 million as a right defenseman. And I don't know who falls in that category, but I would say that's kind of the target. I do think part of it is the question is who's going to ultimately play the best. Now, granted, I understand that Roy and Hudson played this year, and I'm not saying that's not a great combination going forward, but I do think you have to evaluate it. I mean, I think the question is
well,
who's
I
going to
mean,
play the
who
best
else does he
with.
play with?
Well, I don't know.
Lil Jagrin or Trevor Van Riemsdyk? You want him with Trevor Van Riemsdyk? I don't.
No, 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 and I
Matt
don't just
Roy, like it or not, is our most stable defenseman. And the truth is, we don't need an offensive defenseman.
right. No, 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 no.
So
I
we
agree.
should be really looking for a right Brooks Orpik-esque guy
Yeah,
who's just
yeah,
going to hold it down, or Jacob
right,
Slavin for Carolina. Doesn't matter of points. I remember, when Brooks Orpik would score, it'd be like the first goal in 100 games. Like he was
right,
not there for anything else but
right.
to shut you down on the other end. And that's kind of where we need to look because like there are these big names at the top of this list, but really we just want a very good, solid defensive defenseman that can kind of lock down that right side and be a good, oh, I'll pull back for a Chikrin who wants to push
Right.
up, for a
Yeah,
Cole
yeah.
who's young and
Mhm,
is going to make mistakes, back him up.
mhm.
Um,
Right.
I think that should really be the goal. But like you said, I mean, we have to find someone, I mean, just some names on the right side that are more in that 3 to 5 you mentioned. Um, Connor Clifton for Pittsburgh, Justin Hall for St. Louis, Nick Leddy. No, not Nick Leddy. He's a lefty. Eric Goodbranson from Columbus, Radko Gudas, John Klingberg. There's actually a lot of righty defensemen. Shea
Yeah, actually,
Weber,
isn't
who's
uh
aging.
isn't
Oh,
I
40.
think
He's old.
I think Geeky with Boston is a UFA.
I do not see him on this list.
Okay. Okay. Well, I thought Kiki was, but he looked like he's kind of the age, and he's going to get a increase. If he's a UFA from what he's making now, but
Nah,
he would be in the range.
he signed a 6 year, 33 million contract with Boston in June 29th, 2025, lasting through
Oh, did
2030.
he? Oh, okay. Shoot, I'm not sure
So
where
he
I
was a
saw
free
that.
agent
Interesting.
last year.
I gotcha. Maybe I was looking at the wrong
May
year.
have been an old one. Um,
Right.
but yeah, and
But
I
no,
think
you're
sorry, good.
but you're right. I mean, I when I was looking yesterday at that list, that was part of my observation too. Was like you want to stay at home defenseman, you want to have somebody that complements Chikrin and is a good fit with Chikrin. I think the reality is you've got two solid. Offensive, really top of the league offensive talents in Hudson and Chikrin. And, really the magic will be if we hit the right pairing, right? I mean, if you hit the right pairing, then you've got somebody. And Roy is working very well. With Hudson. So just being able to have somebody that really complements Chikrin, and then obviously Hudson's going to play a little bit as well with him. So
Yeah.
yeah, but again, I think the names are going to crop up. I think the one thing I will say about the trade issue is I'm not so sure you're really looking at UFAs.
I was yep.
To me, they're looking at, Chris Patrick has an idea in his mind of what they need to complement Chikrin, right? And so there's a right defenseman, and he's out there, and they're going to be probing. It's probably a short list of 3 to 5 people that they want to look at, and they're going to be offering up those assets, right? And
Mhm.
having those negotiations. So I think they've already said they're going to be more aggressive. They've got the wallet, they've got the assets. So they're doing something. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if Ovi's coming back, they're going for a Stanley Cup. They're going
Yeah,
for a deep
I
run in the
think
Stanley Cup.
I think you look at everything Chris Patrick said. I mean, he said, I think he's the direct quote. I think we're in the best spot we've been in as far as having the stuff to trade that a team might want. We've got picks, we've got some good prospects. There's obviously some prospects that we're not going to move in these deals, end quote. But then you said the wallet's full. And I believe at 1 point, yeah, we're good spot cap wise going into off season as well. So you have a lot to work with. You have cap space, so sign and trades are definitely on the table. But I think they are truly in a spot where they're like, all right, we're fine with dishing our stuff because we want to win now. Like
Mhm.
they're a team that's trying to win with Ovi, without Ovi. They're in that window. And I truly believe they are too. You add a top line player and a lockdown right defenseman to this team with the young talent and how we've
Yep.
seen them take steps. I think you are in a spot to win right now. And I think that's what we're going to try and do. But I agree, even with the defenseman, I think a trade is more on the table than signing. I
Mhm.
think if we go for a right defenseman, I think is where we would sign a UFA. Whereas I think pretty much the big splash is going to be a trade. I think that's, in my opinion, I don't know how you feel, that's been made relatively clear from
Mhm.
what we can piece together from management.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. I mean, I think the big first line right wing or left wing, first or second line or center is going to come before draft day. I mean, it's going to be somewhere along the lines of offering up some of those draft assets along with a prospect or so to get the best person we think we
Mhm.
can get that will fit with the team. Whoever that is. I mean, I love what Alex Tuck is doing up with Buffalo, but he may ultimately re-sign with Buffalo.
Oh, I mean,
But
after this playoff run, they might try to keep everyone together and
right,
keep
right,
everyone in
exactly.
Buffalo because even just the
So
electricity from the fan base from making the first round, I
it's
mean, I
huge.
could so
Yep.
see that rejuvenating
Yeah.
all of them to want to
Right.
stay there because I mean, it's when that team is good, I think it's fun. When that team's
Yeah.
bad, like it's tough. You're in Buffalo and you're grinding through
Mhm.
it, but like
Right.
when it's good, Buffalo fans are some of the best there are. So I could see him staying. But that's off
That could
topic.
that could
Um,
be a good segue to our Stanley Cup conversation.
Well, yeah, but you wanted to put that at the end, so it's at the end. So
Okay.
we're gonna go on to Hershey. Hershey
Ah,
just
Hershey.
started their playoff run. They're in the first round, which is a best of three series in the Atlantic, and they are up on the Islanders. Let me
Yeah.
see, it's Bridgeport Islanders, 1-0. They got a 2-0 win. Um, highlight really was, I guess, Protus got an empty
That was
netter,
an
but that was
empty.
kind of it. Chris Dahl was quiet, had a penalty. Miroshnichenko with one shot. Rubinski had an assist. The goal was by the legit goal was
Jacquard.
by Gucciardi.
Jacquardi. Yep.
Um,
Gucciardi.
he
Right.
got one, was +1 on the night with three shots. But the highlight really was Clay Stevenson, who
Hmm.
18 shot, 18 saves, and um, so no goals let in, obviously gets the shutout.
And
So,
that's following him playing in the last game and only giving up one goal and beating
mhm.
the Flyers, right?
Yeah,
It
no,
was their last
Columbus.
game. So no, Columbus, sorry. Columbus. Yeah, so he only gave up one goal in that game. But so interestingly enough, I think Hershey is in a different situation. A couple things. Bridgeport is actually not going to be in Bridgeport next year. They're going to be in Hamilton. So that's an interesting dichotomy that these could be the last couple games in Bridgeport for that team. But what I was going to say is in previous years, Hershey has had a gangbuster regular season. And this year was a little bit different for them. And in part, that's because they haven't had as strong a defense. They have great goaltending. I mean, frankly, with Mitchell Gibson and with Clay Stevenson, they've had really good goaltending. And they have a great offense. I mean, obviously, Protus and Crystal have put up
Yeah,
huge numbers, but Triniev,
yeah.
but Brett Leeson, all these guys have put up really good offensive numbers.
I would say that the difference really is because you look at those teams, like they had very good veteran presence. Like they
Hmm.
were veteran Hershey teams. Our prospects were playing well, McMichael, but McMichael even got a good amount of experience in the AHL. Like
Hmm.
Lexi got a good amount of experience in the AHL.
Right,
But then you had Dylan McElrath and Ethan Frank, who were
right,
like
right.
AHL studs. So
Hmm.
and they're veteran leaders. So I think
Right,
that
right.
might be the difference. Whereas when you're led by a
Hmm.
19-year-old and a 20-year-old on offense and a 23-year-old and Miro and Trinyev's an older guy, is a little older. Um, and then the defense, like Chesley is very young in his AHL career. Like
Hmm.
Rubinski has gotten time, but I think they're younger. I could be wrong. You're much more tapped into Hershey than I'd say I am, and there's tons of Caps fans who are big Hershey fans on the side. And I know that's one thing that is fun is I feel like that Hershey, there's not many, in my opinion, once again bias, relationships between a affiliate and their NHL team than like Caps and Hershey. Like we've just been together so long. So I feel like the Caps truly, most Caps fans truly are Hershey Bears fans. Like we all are. Like whether you lived in
Hmm.
Hershey because they have a great local fan base too. But that's why the playoffs are so fun there. But it's always very fun to track Hershey and to root for Hershey. But I think they're just a younger team. But I will say with the goaltending, you're 100% right. Our goaltending has always been great. I mean, you go all the way back to Michael Neuwirth and him
Hmm.
winning back then with, I believe, Bruce Boudreau was the
Probably, yeah.
coach then. But
That's the Carl. Is that the one with Carlson that they won the
yeah,
Hershey won the
I believe that would be the
Calder
one with
Cup?
Carlson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and yeah, so they've really had storied goaltending. And when you have great goaltending, you can make a run. And I feel like the Hershey Bears are always capable of making a run. But now you are relying on younger, experienced players.
Yep, yep. No, you're exactly right. And again, we'll have to see. I mean, they obviously had a tough, tight game that they won. Actually, they played tonight in Hershey, so we'll see. And this is the best of three in this round. But I do agree with you. If they can pass through Bridgeport, I think they're trending in the right direction at the right time, which is always a thing that you want.
Yeah.
We also didn't say that this is a new coach. This is
Hmm.
first year for this particular coach. So he's done a great job just getting them to the playoffs with a lot of the movement. Just had lots of movement from
Yeah.
their ECHL team up and down, and all that stuff, and then certainly us bringing up Ilya. It's one of those things where unfortunately it's great to bring them up to the NHL, but at the same time that means they're not playing down at Hershey, and maybe they lose a couple games there. So, but the one thing you said, and I think this is there was pictures of Vincent Iorio going to the final game. The last weekend of regular season, and Dylan Strome was down there with his wife and kid watching Matt Strome. So there are just a lot of connections, and Vincent Iorio isn't even playing for the Caps anymore.
Hmm.
He's with some other team, but he's coming back, and he's visiting with some Caps and going to a Hershey game. So I think that, again, like you said, it kind of shows the connection that we have with Hershey. And I think that that's something that kind of fuels that team down at
Yeah.
Hershey, having all of these NHL players connected to them,
Yeah.
even though their season has ended and they're not making the playoffs, they're able to support, Hershey.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into, the whole reason we did this podcast, which is kind of that family connection. I feel like Hershey and the Caps have that as well. So it stems even more outside that organization into what a great organization, which a storied organization long before the Caps. Like
Right.
Hershey is
Hmm.
historic. And so I think it'll be fun to track that. Like you said, if they win the next game, they can take that series and then go into, I think it's the Atlantic semifinals, or I don't really fully know the structure of their playoffs. It's a little different and
Right.
everything.
Right.
But yeah, all that matters is if they get a win, they get past Bridgeport. So that'll be fun to watch. And like you said, it's also got to be a confidence boost for Miro and Ilya and Clay who come down and are like, we just kind of had good success at the
Hmm.
NHL level.
Right.
We can
Right.
now step down. This slows down a little bit, and maybe they get a boost from that.
Right. And the one thing I will say, and just because we're kind of looking at prospective trades, remember from a management perspective, you're playing deeper into the playoffs, and that allows other teams to see your prospects. Right. So the fact is, we've talked about Miro. Is he long term? Is he not? So there are people watching these games, and there are people looking at our prospects. Now, granted, someone would go say, "Oh, I want Chris Dahl." Patrick probably is going to have a list of people that he's not willing to part with.
And maybe
But
Cristal isn't on that list. Maybe Cristal's a guy where they're like, hey, we're plugged up in wingers a little bit or something like that, or we have a lot of
mhm,
faith in Miro. Who
mhm,
knows? And he
we don't
gets
know. Yeah,
shipped. So
yeah,
because maybe there's intense interest from him and we get a great
yeah.
we
My
can put
my my
together a
point is
good
that
package.
yeah, my point is that whatever stock value they have could be increasing
Yeah.
as as we go deeper into the
I
playoffs.
think that's really valid with Clay because a question I raised to you is like, is Clay, because I thought at one point Lindgren was really good trade bait because he was a starter for
Mhm.
us and then he was kind of, now
Right,
he's a backup to a really good goalie, but still a good backup. Like we're paying him, I think,
right,
3 mil, um,
right,
3 or 3.5. So
right.
when you're paying him that much, we paid him what a really good backup was, and I was like, okay, that's actually a good one to send to maybe a bad team that needs a solid goalie. But
Right,
then
right.
he
Yeah,
really
definitely,
did not
definitely.
perform, and Clay
Right.
Stevenson has really performed at the AHL level and has been solid in his looks up here. So I honestly wonder if Clay Stevenson at this point is better trade bait because of this. And especially, like you said, if he plays on into the playoffs and does well.
Right. No, it could be. And you're right. I mean, Lindgren's stock value may not be as high as we'd like. I do think if it is, I think that they will trade him because Stevenson is signed right now, and he's signed for what 850,000 or 775,000, something like that, a low number, right? Not 3 million, right? So you can bring him up pretty easy at backup, and I think he would do very, very well. So I don't know if, like you said, Lindgren has enough stock value. I don't think the Caps have ever been very comfortable trading a goalie, because I look at some of the experiences we've had. We traded Newverth at one point. Newverth actually ended up doing really well in Philly.
Yeah, but I will push
um,
back on that just because
okay,
we have a goalie for the next 4 years.
right,
Like
right. Yeah, no, I mean,
the
I don't
backup
disagree with
to
you.
him to Logan is going to be a backup. So like
Right,
he's gonna sit for a
that's
while.
true. That's a good point.
So if
That's a good point.
it's not really if we trade Lindgren or Stevenson, to me, hey, we can figure out the backup problem later or
Right,
something. But I think
right.
definitely the ideal situation would be to get rid of Lindgren because
Hmm.
that takes 3 mil off your books as well.
Yeah, right,
So
right.
gives you more
Yep.
cap space. But like you said, I think as well, I think his stock might have plummeted a little bit. And he does not
Hmm.
command as
Right.
much, and I don't think people will want to take on his salary. Because
Hmm.
that's a lot for a goalie that may not be that good anymore. But
Hmm.
we don't know. I mean, he
Right.
did play amazing to get us in the playoffs 2 years ago. So like that guy was there. Um, but yeah, so we'll have to see where that goes. Now, really quick, we'll just talk about the Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously, we're not in it, but we still love watching it, and it's always fun to track. And there's, um, players to watch who might be trade bait and or might be trade market guys, and everything. So keeping track of that as well. And Dad, I'll just ask you kind of, um, well, who you have to win it, and then just what you've seen from the first round, what you've enjoyed, series you've liked, just kind of what you think.
Well, I have the Avalanche over the Hurricanes in six. And I think, obviously, I think the big surprise, if there's any surprise so far in the playoffs, it's the Flyers and the Penguins.
Hmm.
I think we had talked originally about like the Penguins,
I thought the
you know,
Penguins may sweep the Flyers and or go
right,
5 games,
exactly.
and it's looking the other
Yeah.
direction
Now the
completely.
Flyers again, we know this because we ended up, losing that spot to the Flyers, but the Flyers were trending very, very positively at the end of the
Yeah,
year. They were 8-2, we were 7-3.
I think that's
So the
flipped.
Flyers have been playing.
No, I
I
think
can't remember.
that isn't that flipped?
I can't remember. The last ten coming out of the regular season, I thought were, you'd have to look at it,
It very much doesn't
but
matter.
the
Keep
Flyers,
going. I'm just gonna look.
the Flyers were trending positively, and I think like last night was a perfect example. The Flyers are bringing the physicality, so I think that
Yeah,
that's something that actually has helped them. They have the offensive talent. I mean, Trevor Zegras is extremely dynamic in the playoffs. He got his first playoff goal. Obviously, hadn't played in playoffs before. Um, so they just have a lot of good offensive assets. They're playing with a pretty physical, and the goalie is playing well. Not outstanding, but well enough, right? So I think that's the big surprise. I would say the other thing, just in general, boy, the physicality in the playoffs has just been off the charts. The Lightning Canadians game, oh my gosh, they were fighting every whistle, every whistle.
that's
There
very
was a
Tampa Bay.
scrum.
It's very
I
Tampa
mean,
Bay.
yeah, I mean, it was. crazy. So that the physicality of that series I thought was nuts. I don't think the other ones. I mean, Oilers Ducks is 1-1. Golden Knights over Mammoth. Yeah, I think it's 2-1.
No, 1-1.
Um, 1-1, 1-1 in that one. That's right. They play tonight. So I don't think there's any real surprises. Avalanche are up, what, 2-0 on the Kings. Stars are up 2-1 on the Wild. Um, Hurricanes over the Senators 2-0. I mean, Sabres Bruins is going to be a whale of a series, I think. Um, but again, like you've said, that fan base, they are so enthusiastic about having games. They look like that's going to be a tough team to beat. So I'd be surprised if the Bruins were able to take them. And I think yeah, maybe I do have the Lightning over the Sabres. I mean, the Lightning Canadians, after I've seen this, that's a toss up. I mean, we've seen a couple great overtimes. The one thing you realize about Stanley Cup playoffs is if there's anything that makes it great, it's A, physicality, and B, overtime. It's
Yeah.
the 20-minute overtime golden goal scenario. It
Every
just
shot
makes
is scary as heck if you're a fan.
it exactly. And I just think we've already seen a couple of two overtime games, and it's like, whoa, that's when it really starts to get interesting after that first overtime. With
Yeah.
second, third overtime, you're talking about people playing, 35, 40 minutes on the ice on, hockey, physicality. I mean, you're getting exhausted by that third overtime. you know.
Oh yeah.
So that's exciting. That's what we love about Stanley Cup hockey. I think that's what I enjoy watching. The physicality. Again, I think part of it is a lot of it is like just getting under people's skin. I mean, honestly, and so there's a little bit of that. I do think I would say the one thing I've noticed, and I do think they need to govern this a little bit better, but they do need to figure out a way of managing the poking at the goalie. I mean, there's a lot of the stuff that happens like, after the whistle, the goalie has the puck.
Yeah, but you're
There's
talking about getting under people's skin, and that's like the definition of getting under
no,
people's
and
skin.
I get that. I get
That's
that.
why
But
they do it. They go up, they poke it, pisses them off,
right,
then you get into a little
right.
bit physical. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that is completely part of that as well, because you don't see that as much in the regular season. But then
Right,
you
right.
see it a lot because they're trying to be a little more aggressive, trying to be a
Yeah.
little more in your face
Mhm.
about it.
There's more of a rattle the goalie type of approach, I think, in
Hmm.
the playoffs, and get them off their game type of thing. But I do think that that's been something I've noticed this year. It just seems to be a little bit aggressive. And I don't, again, playoffs, the refs for whatever reason seem to, swallow their whistle on a lot of stuff. I did think a couple of the games, like, and definitely the Canadians Lightning games, it was pretty crazy. They were not really managing it well in the first period, and by the third period, it was getting really ugly. I mean, when you got four or five people in the penalty box, that's a little nuts,
Philly
right?
had that. There was 4 or 5, I think, last
I
night.
know.
I saw
Yeah,
that.
that's true. That's true. Last night, yeah,
Um,
yeah. So what do you
yeah.
what do you think of the playoffs?
No, I mean covered a lot of it. I have Buffalo beating the Avalanche, because I didn't want to pick the Avalanche, and I think Buffalo winning a cup would be so much fun. I think Buffalo
Right.
would burn down, and it would be crazy, and I'd love to see that fan base win of all of them. The one that surprised me a lot, obviously, you said Philly. I think that one I really did not think Philly was going to be a team that thrived in a playoff environment. I was completely wrong. They really, really thrive in a playoff environment, and
Right.
that has been impressive. They've been very impressive. I ex did not really expect the Senators to kind of come out the
Yeah.
way they have.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
hoping they could split a game, but I mean, they were both at Carolina. Obviously, they have home ice
Yeah.
advantage, so now they get a chance to go home to Ottawa, um,
I agree.
which I think will help a lot. But I would, I I think the Senators are a pretty good hockey team. Obviously, Carolina is a great hockey team, but I'm hoping they turn it around and thinking they will. Now coming home to playing tonight at 7:30, and Boston, to
Hmm.
their credit, they did split in Buffalo.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
no, they did.
that is a little bit crazy. And if I'm correct, I didn't catch the end of that game, but yeah, it was 4-2, and I think they were up 4-0
4-2,
at a
right?
point. Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, yeah, they were. Yep.
when you look at that, Boston was able to weather that storm. Now they get to go home to Boston, which not too shabby in a playoff environment either. Um,
Yeah,
so
and
yeah,
in that particular case, I think that, the other dynamic you have to kind of constantly remember is the goalie. I mean, Jeremy Swayman, again, 4-4, they were up 4-0. I mean, so he is locking down, and that's as much as Buffalo's probably potentially the better team there.
yeah.
If you've got a hot goalie,
Well,
the hot
well,
goalie can carry you.
he coughed up a game one. We have to
Right, right,
remember that. But
right.
yes, if he's able to protect the lead that his offense is able to give him, yeah, he's going to be much better, and that's what he was able to do in this one. My favorite series is Canadians Lightning so far.
Yeah,
I've loved watching
yeah,
it. I love the physicality. I don't mind refs holding their whistle in the playoffs. I think it's a lot more of a let them play mentality, which I
right.
like a lot. Obviously, watching Cole's brother too, because it'll be
Hmm.
fascinating to see how similar they can be.
Right,
Um,
right.
and I'm rooting for, my brother, your son, other son, went to is was a season ticket holder for the Mammoth for their first season and still goes to games. And so we are kind of rooting for the Mammoth on that western side.
That's
And they
right.
were
Yeah.
they were able to even that up. So that's been fun to watch as well.
Well, and just a sidelight on that is one of the reasons it's kind of an interesting series to watch for us is Nick Dowd is on the Vegas Golden Knights, and so there's a
Yeah,
little
that's
bit
true.
of stuff going on between him and Logan Cooley on the Utah Mammoth, and so that's been interesting to kind of watch. And like you said, I think I've become more familiar with some of the Utah Mammoth players and stuff like that. So watching them in the Stanley Cups is exciting as well.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. It'll be interesting to see how it progresses. I'm fascinated to see if the Penguins can answer the Flyers at all, because it has not
Yeah,
looked like they have any
yeah,
answer for the Flyers. So that will be very interesting to see if they get a full sweep, because I think that would have been the one of the last series people would have thought would be a sweep in
yeah.
Philly's favor. Or like
Absolutely.
I don't know
Absolutely.
if people thought there would be a sweep there anyways because
Right.
it's too close matchup, but yeah,
Right.
that is the most shocking thing by far. Stars Wild also has been great. I mean, double overtime
Yes.
last night,
Yeah.
getting a 4-3 win. So that's been a great series, which we kind of expected and hoped for. And the Ducks evened it up with the Oilers. So Edmonton's not super overpowering, at least in that split. They stole a game in Edmonton. So maybe the Ducks did get a little rejuvenated by their deadline moves. So that'll be interesting to
Right.
see. And, I think personally, I don't know for others, I don't exactly, I'm rooting for John. I mean, I don't, would it be bittersweet if he won a cup? Probably. But like, we'd love to see him have some success. So before we wrap this one up, as we're getting the last couple minutes here, we just wanted to say for everyone who's still listening right now. We got a fun interview coming up in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on if everything goes as planned as far as scheduling and stuff. But we will have former Caps defenseman Carl Alsner coming on for a little interview, and we're excited to ask him about, his family ties to hockey, some great Caps memories, give us a little bit about playing with Ovi, playing with John, things of that nature. And we're beyond thankful that he even agreed to come on and has been so great and so supportive of this idea, which is really, really fun and really awesome. So we're really excited to have that happen soon. And I think the coolest thing is just that was, really part of the team when I was at my, young 9, 10, to 13 phase, I think, and he was a part of all those teams, and then some. And it's just very, very cool to see to get to talk to him and kind of pick his brain and him hear about his time with the team. So, yeah, Dad, what do you think? What are you excited about?
Oh no, I'm really excited, obviously, to talk to him about. I think he had a interest that we are a father-son podcast, so we're certainly going to talk about how he got started with hockey and the influence of his father on his hockey career. I want to learn a little bit maybe about some of the mentor trips, see how those went. But I think what's interesting about Carl is that he played with Mike Green as well as John Carlson. And so I think that'll be interesting to kind of talk to him about those years. Kind of curious about talking about, the transition to Montreal and how his career went there. And then, it's interesting. I think it's going to be a tough question, but I think, you know, those were such good years. And I'm curious in his mind, what was the most disappointing year? Because there were several years there where they won the President's Cup. We were really, locked in to go far in the playoffs and just, unfortunately weren't able to get over the
Yeah.
hump. And usually the hump was Pittsburgh. Um, but I think that's certainly an interesting challenge. Now was he part of the team when the Canadians went a couple years ago, or was he done by then?
No, because that was COVID. And
Okay.
his last year was 2019, 2020, and
Okay. Okay.
he only played 4 games.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, but yeah, we're excited and interested to
Yeah.
ask him um, a bunch of questions, not giving too much away, and to figure out what we're gonna ask and what we're gonna talk about. But we're very excited just to get to talk to him, and once again, just grateful that he was even
Have
willing to
his
do
support.
this.
Have
But
his
even
support.
willing to
Yeah.
do this at all. So because
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
I sent this as a shot in the dark. So we're really excited. But yeah, we'll wrap things up now, and we appreciate you watching, listening, following on any social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. So thank you so much for your support, and have a great rest of your day.